Hey, how's it going? Mr. Deadman of the Dead Man Stone podcast. Also the man behind Dead Man Stone. What do we do? We publish books you actually want to read. Who reads books anymore? I don't know, but check out this one right here. Mr. Deadman made me do it. You can get a paperback and ebook over there on Amazon. It is a collection of short stories influenced by a fictional Mr. Deadman. I cannot say it's me because that would put me on like Manson levels of crazy. I'm serious. I probably should have consulted my attorneys before I came up with this idea. But it's too late. Anyway, I want to talk to you guys about a certain cryptid called Skinwalkers. I mentioned this in a prior episode of Cursed Earth. If you missed that, where I talked about the Mojave Desert, very grim topic, very grim. But what is a Skinwalker? Wow. Skinwalker is a sort of cryptid. It is a legend, an urban legend of the Navajo tribe, Navajo culture, if you will. Okay? It's a sort of witch. Sort of witch that could turn into, possess, disguise themselves as an animal. They believe that if they don or wear the skin of said animals, of these animals, that they actually take on their characteristics. You might think that sounds more like an animal kin. It's kind of similar, I guess. You might even think that's kind of like a furry. That's also kind of similar. Imagine a furry or animal kin that also goes around keying cars and just vandalizing property or threatening people or trying to mess with people. That's what it's kind of like, lurking around at night. All right, so the legend goes as this. Animals associated with witchcraft usually include tricksters such as the coyote, but can include other creatures, usually those associated with death or bad omens. They might also possess living animals or people and walk around in their bodies by locking eyes with them. Skinwalkers may be male or female. Look at that. According to this legend, there's no third gender to this one. So it's either male or female. Skinwalker stories told among Navajo children may be complete life and death struggles that end in either Skinwalker or Navajo killing the other. Are partial encounter stories that end in a stalemate. Encounter stories may be composed as Navajo victory stories, with the Skinwalkers approaching a hogan and being scared away. Non-native interpretations of Skinwalker stories typically take the form of partial encounter stories on the road, where the protagonist is temporarily vulnerable, but then escapes from the Skinwalker in a way not traditionally seen in a Navajo stories that takes place away from home. Now, from what I understand, some of these stories of the Skinwalkers are so horrific that the Navajo tribe tried to not talk about it. I guess it could bring bad luck. Okay. Now, have there been any sightings of these Skinwalkers? Apparently there have. I'll show you something here. And you let me know what you think. Now, this looks blurry. It could be photoshopped. It looks interesting, like what is going on there. You've probably seen this image before. They say this is a Skinwalker. That's what they say. There's stories all around the internet about this, from Reddit to the Kiwi farms. All everywhere. There's stories of I seen a Skinwalker. So what does that mean? Is it true? I don't know. Let's read some of these stories and find out, right? All right, so let's find some of these stories real fast. All right, one moment. Okay, I got a story right here. I saw a Skinwalker. It's on Reddit. In the brackets, it says true. In fact, if you don't believe me, let me pull it up for you. Look at that. It says true, so it must be true, right? Alright, so I was sitting in my room, watching YouTube or some dumb stuff like that, and I suddenly recalled a past memory. I think what triggered this is me being a horror story lover. Let's read, especially. I wanted to, well, the grammar's not great, wanted to submit a story, but it took a while to remember if I have ever really had a scary personal experience. For I hate fake ones. I suddenly recalled past memory of mine, in which gave me chills just to imagine it. I remember it was me. I hope so. My mom, my brother, and my aunt, and her kids. My brother was about 4 years old at the time. I would like to say I might have been 11. I would like to say, okay. We were all packed into an SUV heading back from a children's museum. It was about midnight, or around that time. We were on a slightly busy highway, and talking maybe 2 cars every minute. I'm talking every 2 cars every minute. Okay, so it was just us, in about the middle of nowhere. Or at least, it seemed like it. We're really around halfway between 2 cities, maybe an hour away from the closest town. We were in the back seat doing little kid stuff, laughing and having fun as the 2 adults spoke at the front about politics or something like that. There was a large open field to the right of the car and a tree line to the left. I mean, like right up to the side of the road, when suddenly a large, crippled, at least by the looks of it, light brown animal jumps at about 50 miles per hour from the tree line onto the road. We noticed this immediately because my mom and aunt screamed something along the lines of, "Holy shit!" and screeched the car to a halt. The littler kids began screaming and crying as I sat in terror and shock, as my mom sat in confusion and fright, staring as I did too. My aunt leaned back towards us kids and tried calming us down, saying it's just a kangaroo and it's okay. Are you in Australia? Because if not, probably not. Unless you're in Texas, they have some here too. Now there's 2 reasons this is incorrect. 1, this is southern Indiana. 2, I know damn well a kangaroo doesn't just pull its hind legs, smash legs behind it as it uses 2 upper arms to rip its sticky self from the ground. Okay. Wow, this post is hard to read. Okay. Flying 20 feet into the air, landing from one side of a 4-lane highway to the other. Right before this thing crawled at an unspeakably fast pace into the dark field with only 2 arms dragging its bloody covered legs. I swear to God, it turned around and looked directly at me. Its eyes were human-like, but this one was different. Now, I just learned about skinwalkers about 1.5 years ago. I know enough about their appearance. Like I said, its whole body was light brown, but as the neck started, the hair began to look blackly signed. What? Charcoal black. It had a snout like a dog, but slightly longer. Okay. So what do you think? You think the story is legit? For some reason this is true. I don't know how they verify this stuff. It's Reddit, so they probably just make shit up. Who knows, right? Do you know? I don't know. I could say the person could probably work on their grammar, but that's not what this is about. But we have another post. I'm pretty sure I saw a skinwalker a while back. Once again, another story about some sort of skinwalker looking thing coming out of the woods. These kids were walking around after playing Magic the Gathering for a while, and they'd gotten bored. So I figured here I'll read the post. So I'd show them this abandoned house about a mile away, and some friends and I have dubbed the Spook House. I don't know about you growing up, but where I lived, I had a house down the road from me, literally actually next door, that was like within these patch of woods. It was broken down, desolate, some crazy stuff. Anyway, so I could see this. I could see the story being somewhat legitimate. All right, so these kids find this abandoned house. They call it the Spook House. It wasn't really a bad house or bad of a house, but this was around 1 a.m., making it all the more fun. I had planned to act like a tour guide for them, maybe even trying to scare them a little, even though the only scary thing I could imagine was running to a methed up homeless person. We eventually get to the house, like maybe about 10-15 minutes, and I begin my tour guide routine. And it's important to note you can only get in through the back since the front's boarded up. I don't like vandalizing things, so we're walking up the driveway to the back. I'm looking at them, talking about the house with my back turned to the back door, when my friend gets this horrified look on his face and a kind of whisper yells, "Dude, look." So obviously, I look behind me and see what looks like a person crawling out of the house on their hands and knees. I could only see the front half of it. The person then looks at us. It has huge white eyes. Truss pretty much match its skin. Okay. It's extremely skinny. Think pictures of Holocaust survivors. Okay. Just getting freed. It had no hair, and I could tell as the moment was very brief. It stopped looking at us for a few seconds and bolted into the woods behind the house at a very fast speed. Needless to say, we were all pretty terrified of what it could be, so we booked it back to my house, stayed up all night, and me and my friends, who was still up, ended up, talking on my porch. When the sun came up, as we were talking, a giant tree branch fell in my backyard. I'm not saying it was related, just a scary, strange coincidence that gave us yet another scare. I had no real idea what skinwalkers were back then, but I did know about the rake. I've honestly never been that terrified in my life. We were probably only 15 or 20 feet from it. If anyone's interested, I live in southeast Indiana. Another story of skinwalkers in Indiana. So, maybe if you want to find a skinwalker, you have to go to Indiana. I don't know. Maybe. Now, there's more. There's more. This person on this website, on Stella, has an interview with someone about an encounter with a skinwalker. Is this true? Is this legitimate? I don't 100% know. It's hard to know for sure, right? Because you don't have video, you don't have photos. But let me ask you something. What do you think? Do you think there's truth to this? Do you think there's something behind all this? Or do you think it's all made up? Could the Skinwalker actually be a legitimate cryptid? If so, why is it so hard to find? What is it? Exactly. I don't know. But if you have an idea, if you have a story, let me know in the comment section down below. All right? If you enjoyed this, press the like button, share, subscribe. Please share it. Please share it, because for some reason, all the videos, maybe it's because of my language, but profanity or whatever, a lot of these videos get ad limited and they don't get promoted. It's hard to find them. Not really recommended. So maybe with our help, we could change that. Y'all take it easy.